In the Shadow World, the city of Black Ruin, 5 years ago, a large number of gates to other dimensions suddenly appeared on Earth. Humans could enter various levels of the Shadow World through these gates. These humans are called the Awakened, chosen by the Shadow World. They have the chance to gain great power but also risk losing their lives at any moment. In a corner of the city filled with monsters, a small witch named Riss was stabbed by a giant monster resembling a demon. Fortunately, a swordsman named Rosie managed to dispatch the demon just in time, reassuring the small witch not to worry. Meanwhile, a female fighter continued to fight with all her might to fend off the surrounding monsters. Despite their exhaustion and significantly reduced strength, they continued to strive to kill as many monsters as possible. The only middle-aged man in the place, also a warrior, began to struggle against the monsters attacking them. Mr. Zhao even thought that his desire to live until the age of 70 seemed very difficult to achieve. A young man who had been confined within a shield asked his comrades to release him from the shield and allow him to try to fight and help them. This is our main character in this comic, a young man with a cool expression on his face, Lu Feng. All team members agreed not to let him out of the shield considering he was still a newbie. Rosie firmly stated that Lu Feng was a newbie who had just entered the Shadow World for the first time. Without level and skill, Lu Feng would simply die in vain. Lu Feng responded that newbies always have their first moment on the battlefield. But Rosie insisted that this was not the time because the monsters in that place were much stronger than the level C monsters they often encountered in the world. Suddenly, another monster, larger than the towering building, appeared. Despite their exhaustion and the increasingly dangerous situation, Rosie urged all members of her team to fight to the last and not let a newbie die before them. After all stamina was restored with the help of the little witch, they advanced together to attack the terrifying ghost monster. With a single swing of its large hand, the monster boss managed to knock out the fighter and warrior. Now only Rosie remained trying to hold off the monster's attacks alone. Seeing their comrades becoming more distressed, Lu Feng asked the little loli to deactivate the protective barrier. With a heavy heart, the little witch released the large energy that had been holding and protecting Lu Feng. Just as Rose's sword was successfully knocked away by the monster and the girl was captured, a skinny young man stepped forward and cut off the monster's arm that was holding Rose. Then he swiftly caught Rose's almost falling body. Of course, Rose was surprised that the beginner could save her, but Lu Feng just asked them to remain silent with his usual cold expression. Now all the team members tried to save themselves by entering the city gate. Hundreds of demon-shaped monsters chased after them. From a few meters away, they could still see the explosions created by Lu Feng to repel every monster that almost caught up with them. Anya, the fighter, was amazed to see the young man's abilities proving her words until they could continue to run to save themselves. While still running, Rose said they had no choice but to trust Lu Feng now. But the figure they were talking about suddenly stood before them, at the end of the tunnel. The young man was able to use teleportation techniques and appeared before them earlier. As all the comrades passed Lu Feng, he instructed them to keep moving forward and leave the remaining monsters to him. Although there were now hundreds of terrifying monsters before them, not only large but also able to fly, Lu Feng smiled slightly, saying that the monsters were prohibited from entering the city area. At the same time, he deactivated a small object in his hand, causing a very large explosion inside the tunnel. The explosion was so huge that it pushed all of Lu Feng's comrades out of the gate. Initially, they worried about Lu Feng being left behind in the tunnel and possibly being trapped in the explosion. But to their surprise, the young man suddenly stood among them and told them not to worry, because the range of the bomb had been calculated accurately. After his monsters were gone, the tunnel would be blocked. Then they could go to a safer place. As everyone stared at him, Lu Feng casually invited them to go to the safer place first. From the top of a tall building in the city, Lu Feng told his comrades that once they arrived there, they would all be safe. At this point, he asked if they could trust him. Rose replied that she believed the young man in front of her was a very strong newbie, but she still didn't believe that he had reincarnated for 3,000 years. Anya also answered that in the city, maps and bombs were not hard to come by, so she still didn't find Lu Feng convincing enough. Little Loli approached, asking what he had been doing besides fighting, considering 3,000 years is a very long time. Lu Feng replied that it was indeed a very long time. So, he learned many things besides fighting to pass the time. For example, this young man once flew a plane and took little Loli on a journey through space with that plane. He also wrote programs to disrupt systems across the country. Lu Feng also studied various surgical procedures. This young man is also skilled in chess and several other things, each of which he mastered expertly. Anya said that the Black Ruin City is a very large shadow world, and there are at least hundreds of Awakeners teleported to that place. So, Lu Feng is presumed to know not only them but also others. Lu Feng replied that he almost knows everyone and has learned many secrets of people through countless reincarnations, but only 7 people have become his allies. Little Loli wondered and asked who the other 3 people were besides the 4 of them. Rosie reminded little Loli not to listen to Lu Feng's nonsense because she thought reincarnation couldn't last for 3,000 years. Lu Feng bowed to Rosie, saying he did not expect that either. Now they had to part ways again. Rosie, embarrassed, covered her feelings while saying that Lu Feng was a liar, even though the young man had said he would not reincarnate again until sunrise. Lu Feng smiled happily because the goddess truly paid attention to affairs, but he would arrange for their departure first before reincarnating again. Suddenly, a gondola approached them. Then Lu Feng jumped into the gondola, saying he had already mentioned that he was a skilled programmer, so controlling such a large gondola only required hacking the city's electricity for a moment. Currently, in the middle of the city, a monster boss larger than a multi-story building was causing chaos and destroying anything blocking its path. The entire special forces tried to attack the creature with their firearms, but they were easily brushed aside with a single swing of the creature's massive arm. A woman in all black said that the information they received was incorrect, so the whole team had to retreat first. Suddenly, someone among them mentioned a meteor falling from space. The leader of the troops warned the young man that the place was very dangerous, so he asked the level 5 newbie to leave to avoid causing new problems for them. However, the young man, who was none other than Lu Feng, instead approached the monster, telling the leader of the troops that it would soon be over. Seeing a human approaching it, the monster immediately reached out to grab Lu Feng. The leader of the troops could only sigh as he predicted that the newbie would soon die. Contrary to everyone's expectations, Lu Feng managed to cut off the monster's finger with a single swing of his sword. Instantly, all the special forces in the area were astonished to witness the event before them. Lu Feng said that the most vulnerable parts of the giant winged steel creature's body were the pinky finger and ring finger of its right hand. Once injured, the creature would quickly transform into its second form, the giant wire rope. Just as Lu Feng said, numerous steel arms emerged from the monster's back. While avoiding the dozens of steel arms trying to attack him, Lu Feng reminded all the special team members not to let the monster evolve into its third form, the steel wings, because at that point, it could release countless vacuum blades. If that stage happened, it would be equivalent to the human race waiting for death. Lu Feng thrust his sword into the monster's left arm and spun several times while holding his sword tightly. Due to this technique, the monster's left arm was successfully cut off and dropped. Lu Feng continued to explain to everyone present that when in the most painful condition, the monster's control center would be exposed. Lu Feng climbed onto the creature's forehead and then stabbed deeply into the middle of its forehead. After that, he quickly made a move to stab the monster's unsuspecting eye. Instantly, the large monster roared in pain, fell, and exploded on the spot. Fortunately, Lu Feng jumped before the creature exploded. All the Special Forces members were astonished to see Lu Feng's fighting style, which was so relaxed. They even thought that the young man might be a level good newbie. After defeating the monster, a ball of light flew towards Lu Feng. The system explained that it was a mechanical egg that could hatch a giant steel-winged creature. There was only one chance in 100 million for such an object to be dropped by the monster. Lu Feng held the ball-sized object while thinking that it might be useful later. Unfortunately, for now, the fight was futile if they only received such a reward. The final boss of the Black Ruin City had been successfully killed. After this mission ended, all the Awakeners would be teleported within 1 minute. All the members of Lu Feng's team, who had been watching the battle from the mountain, were amazed that the monster had been defeated so quickly. Now Rose believed when Lu Feng said he would send them away. Little Loli even said that Lu Feng might be someone who had reincarnated for 3,000 years. Anya added that whether right or wrong, thanks to the young man, they would leave this shadow world as soon as possible. Once they all returned to the real world, they would know the truth. If they didn't meet Lu Feng again, then what the newbie said was the truth. Lu Feng still stood in the middle of the city, holding the golden egg dropped by the monster boss earlier. He thought that every day at 6 AM, or after he killed the main monster boss, he would reincarnate again. So, this young man slowly closed his eyes, bidding farewell to all his comrades in that world, because now he would start his next reincarnation. For a moment, darkness filled his entire field of view. But suddenly, when he opened his eyes, he was already lying on the bed in his room. Because he was very familiar with the place, Lu Feng immediately took the digital clock on the table to see again that he had indeed reincarnated. Lu Feng immediately shouted as loud as he could out of his bedroom window that he had finally returned. He didn't care if anyone heard his screams and thought he was crazy because he had gone through various terrifying battles and endless reincarnations. But he hoped that everything was truly over now. When he opened the hologram screen, the young man realized that his level was still maintained. This time he was at level 9. Looking at the nightstand, he saw the golden ball he had brought earlier. When he held it, the system explained that it was an iron egg, an item with a rare level, but the hatching conditions for the object were not mentioned. Lu Feng was slightly disappointed because it seemed that the object couldn't help him stop reincarnating after thousands of years. Besides, he also didn't know how to hatch the egg. Suddenly, a girl burst open the door of the room roughly, and Lu Feng wasn't angry because the girl sitting in the wheelchair was his sister named Lu Yao. Lu Yao was furious because her brother suddenly appeared in the room. Earlier, she suspected that the noisy person in her brother's room was a thief. Since her brother had returned, Lu Yao immediately scolded him out of irritation. Lu Feng hadn't answered the phone all day, nearly prompting a call to the police. Lu Feng immediately hugged the girl sitting in the wheelchair because he was happy to finally reunite with his sister. Lu Yao was surprised and asked, "What's wrong with my brother? And why didn't you come home all day?" Lu Feng didn't answer his sister's questions, only saying, "I missed you so much," because, for him, it had been quite a while since he last saw Lu Yao. Lu Yao pushed her brother's body and started scolding him for disappearing all day. The girl demanded an explanation from him right away. Lu Feng just said there was a slight problem at his part-time job, but he had been working all day and forgot to charge his phone, which ran out of battery. He asked his sister not to be too angry, promising that when he got paid, he would give her the almighty repair king set she always wanted. Upon hearing this, Lu Yao smiled and said she would forgive him this time for the sake of goodness. She then said she would cook for Lu Feng now. Hearing this, Lu Feng immediately smiled and said he wanted boiled beef, fish, beer, and Lu Yao's spicy coral shrimp, causing Lu Yao to angrily shout at him for making so many requests. Nevertheless, she promised to make sure he ate all the dishes. Lu Feng remembered that in the past, a car accident had taken away their parents and Lu Yao's legs, but she still said that none of it was a problem. Even though she couldn't stand anymore, she was still confident she could take care of Lu Feng for their parents. At the hospital, Lu Feng told his sister that what the doctor said didn't matter. He was sure Lu Yao would be able to stand again someday. Now, Lu Feng went into the kitchen and told Lu Yao that during his part-time work, he had specifically learned how to perform surgery, and after some time, he would operate on his sister's legs. But Lu Yao immediately shouted at him to leave the kitchen and told him not to worry too much about her. A broadcast on TV was heard saying, 5 years ago, a large number of gates with different dimensions suddenly appeared, altering the world's order. Many were chosen by the shadow world behind the gates to embark on adventures. Awakeners are born and die in exchange for a chance at life. Lu Feng quickly grabbed a canned drink to sit on the sofa and watch the TV broadcast. The reporter continued, Awakeners have extraordinary powers and professions, but they cannot control their destinies. Usually, Awakens can take the initiative to choose to enter the shadow world for adventure, but occasionally they are forced to teleport to dangerous unknown worlds. Legends say that only when the challenges of many god-level worlds are successfully faced will all shadow worlds disappear. Today, the TV invited the president of the Acqq organization, who was also the #1 Awakener in the world, to say a few words to the viewers. The sturdy adult man laughed and greeted the viewers through the camera screen. He also introduced himself as the president of Acqq, Austin. Austin is the strongest resurgence in the world today, known as the Guardian of Light among Awakeners. He has cleared countless shadow worlds and is trusted by all Awakeners. He is regarded as the representative of justice and the strongest figure in the world for now. Austin once said that one day all Awakeners would be freed. Although everyone regarded him as a great hero, only Lu Feng knew that he was a demon. Lu Feng even crushed the canned bottle in his hand, recalling Austin's actions. No one knew that he was a demon. In reincarnation, to survive when severely injured, he devoured all true Awakeners to preserve his own life. Austin killed all Awakeners alive at the time, including Lu Feng. The true purpose of that person was to control the entire real world as the resurrected one, thus becoming the only god with Awakener powers. Before Lu Feng developed his powers, he had to stay away from Austin. First, he had to start forming his guild. This young man began to remember every name of the people in the past who had been members of his team. According to the formulas taught to him he encountered in the shadow world, all Awakeners sent to the shadow world would face disaster. So he had to do his best to keep all his comrades alive. Suddenly, Lu Yao called for dinner because the menu she prepared was ready, so Lu Feng had to hurry and leave the room. At this moment, Lu Feng's mechanical egg suddenly cracked. What could be inside the egg? The Central Service Building for Awakeners is one of the most luxurious and tall structures in the city. There are always many Awakeners busy handling something there. One of them mentioned that if they could join Acqq, then they would have the chance to be close to the superhero named Austin. Some others felt surprised because someone was creating their guild when the protection under Acqq was deemed the best decision. However, at this moment, Lu Feng ignored everyone's remarks and approached the receptionist's desk to apply to create a guild. Lu Feng also explained to the receptionist woman that the online application had already been submitted. Other Awakeners considered Lu Feng a crazy newcomer because most guild creators were boss level 50 players. Lu Feng completely disregarded their comments and paid more attention to the receptionist woman's instructions, explaining that if he wanted to register, he had to send a level item from the shadow world as a credential. 1 week after the successful creation, a copy of the product would be returned to Lu Feng. Initially, everyone laughed at the kid because they thought a level 9 newbie wouldn't possibly have a level C item, let alone obtain a level item required to create a guild. But when the kid pulled out the mechanical egg that had not yet hatched, everyone was stunned, because it was a precious ice level heirloom. They were astonished at how a level 9 beginner could obtain such an ice level item. Once again, Lu Feng ignored them all. He instructed the receptionist woman to remember to store the item in the Sub-Zero room. The girl obediently followed the order, then informed Lu Feng again that if less than 3 awakeners responded to Lu Feng's request to join his team within 36 hours, the registration would automatically fail and Lu Feng would lose his copy. Lu Feng sent 7 requests to join the team to 7 people who had previously been members of his team. Lu Feng was willing to do anything to get them to join his team. At the Kendo Center in London, Rosie was fiercely battling her opponent when she received a notification to join Lu Feng's guild. I'm sure the person claiming to have been reincarnated for 1,000 years is a liar. So, she rejected Lu Feng's offer. Meanwhile, in another corner of the world, Anya, who turned out to be a boss, told her subordinate that if the acquisition of the Huada gene was not completed within 3 days, the person in front of her as well as the entire team members would be replaced. The subordinate could only obediently continue his work better before finally leaving the room. At that moment, Anya received a notification to join Lu Feng's guild, but she rejected the offer because she found it very boring. Elsewhere, Mr. Zhao Hasten was delivering very advanced robot technology from the shadow world. They had to safely transport the robot to the headquarters. He received a notification request to join Lu Feng's guild at that moment, but he thought it was spam trying to trick him into buying healthcare products. He thought the offer was so impossible that he immediately rejected it. In his town, Lu Feng was still staring at his phone containing a message from Little Loli saying that he was lying. This young man looked dejected because one by one people rejected him. Nevertheless, he had to get 3 members first, so he started walking around the city to find someone already familiar wandering around. In a narrow alley of the city, the thugs shouted with joy because their leader, called Sister, had successfully defeated all their enemies. Their leader was a short-haired woman who was currently stepping on the opponent's chest. The girl named Zia told the opponent that the international criminal organization was extraordinary. I have a brother who is a street gangster, but those people are not allowed to bully my gang members. Feeling relieved, the man immediately stood up, lifted his weapon, and shot Zia, hoping she would die. But it turned out that the girl had the power to control all the bullets heading toward her, then redirect the trajectory of the bullets right toward the opponent. Although all the bullets were intentionally missed, the opponent was still terrified. Zia said the last time, my brother didn't take the guy's stuff, but the guy bothered my people, so I will destroy them all. With unseen force, Zia lifted the body of the adult man and slammed it with all her might against the nearby wall. The whole team cheered for the girl because she had amazing power like the god of war. In the face of Zia's power, no international criminal organization dared to disturb them. But suddenly, there was the voice of a young man saying that the girl still liked to cause trouble. Instantly, everyone in the place turned their heads with astonished faces. The bold young man who insulted Zia was Lu Feng. When Zia asked who the young man was, Lu Feng simply answered that he was someone who came to invite the girl to join his guild, Breaking Dawn. Zia said if you're crazy enough, but not thinking of joining a level 9 newbie who's so crazy to establish his guild. Zia asked Lu Feng to forget about it because it wouldn't change her mind about newbies like Lu Feng. Zia's group members stepped forward to challenge Lu Feng if the young man wanted to take Zia. They demanded Lu Feng to demonstrate his fighting ability to them first. Lu Feng immediately clenched his fist and focused his power on his right arm to deliver a powerful blow to everyone in front of him without touching them. Instantly, all the thugs were thrown far away by Lu Feng's powerful punch. Zia commented that the basic skill every newbie possesses is punching. But how could the young man in front of me have such a powerful destructive force with just a punch? Lu Feng replied that even though it's the simplest skill, if someone adjusts the angle, the direction of force, and speed, it can produce a powerful destructive effect. If Zia gets bored, learning and practicing straight punches millions of times, then you can also perform the same punch as me. Suddenly, Zia got angry. The girl used her power to lift everything around her while asking strange people like Lu Feng to stay away. But before the girl started to attack, Lu Feng moved lightning fast, so suddenly he was behind Zia, pointing a sword at her neck. Lu Feng said that the girl's movements were still too slow. Zia refused to be defeated. The surprise attack from Lu Feng would not be able to deceive her. Lu Feng put away his sword and invited the girl to use the psychic power she mastered to determine the winner and loser between them. Lu Feng had prepared some cans of drinks in several corners of the place. Lu Feng invited Zia to make a bet. They just needed to flip the cans using their psychic power. If the young man knocked down more cans than Zia, then she had to join his group. But if Lu Feng lost, then he would be willing to submit and become her brother. The first to take a turn was Zia. With her psychic power, the girl managed to levitate 5 cans of drinks closest to their position. The whole group cheered happily for her. They were very confident that Lu Feng wouldn't be able to match the leader's abilities. Ziyu was also very arrogant when she asked Lu Feng not to be surprised by her abilities, even asking him to surrender. Lu Feng, who remained calm, simply ignored their words. He took a deep breath slowly, closed his eyes, and then when he opened them, he managed to use a tremendous mental power to pierce through all the cans in the place. All members of Ziyu's group were even stunned to see the young man could knock down all the cans without missing a single one. Ziyu was also very impressed by the scene before her. She couldn't believe that mental intervention could have such a powerful impact. She thought that skill was trash until now. Lu Feng explained that no matter how simple a skill is, as long as it is used properly, it might have a master-level effect. Lu Feng asked the girl to admit defeat and join his group. Finally, Ziyu agreed to become a member of Lu Feng's group. But the young man had to teach her how to use that trash skill until it reached the master's level. Lu Feng replied that it was not a problem, as he would surely make the girl a true mental power queen. As he walked away, Lu Feng welcomed her to his Breaking Dawn guild. Upon returning home, Lu Feng called his sister, saying that he had returned. But strangely, there was no response from inside the house. The young man wondered where his sister had gone. Besides the neatly arranged food on the table, there was a piece of paper containing a message from his sister saying that she went to work at their uncle's store because she also wanted to work hard like her brother. She also reminded her brother to eat the prepared dinner. Lu Feng smiled slightly after reading his sister's simple letter, realizing how caring Lu Yao was. While eating, Lu Feng received a short message from someone. When he opened it, he found out that it was from Ling Yu, who was willing to join his guild. Lu Feng asked through the short message if it was true that the girl had just agreed to join the guild of a newbie without asking about her situation. Ling Yu replied that it was a return because Lu Feng had saved her. But Lu Feng didn't believe such an answer and asked the girl to be honest. Ling Yu replied that she had something to do herself, so she might only join for a while and stop after some time. Lu Feng retorted that the killer profession wasn't suitable for a woman. Ling Yu, who was currently working as a maid, replied that knowing too much information wasn't good for Lu Feng, so she asked him not to contact her as much as possible. Lu Feng said that he wouldn't let the girl with the nickname Zero Feather enjoy her dark world for too long. The young man would bring Ling Yu back into the light. There were only 4 hours left, and only 2 people responded, so he targeted the third person, who surely wouldn't refuse him. In a dark corner of the city, under heavy rain, 3 thugs were harassing a small elementary school boy with a small body. One of them kicked the boy's body while saying that the boy was very stupid. He wouldn't fight back every time he was robbed like this. They had even seen that his friends often bought things for him, but the boy just accepted it. The boy knew he was an awakener, while his opponents were ordinary humans. One of the thugs even said they would sell the boy on the black market because he was very good, so they were sure nothing would happen to him. At this moment, the boy's shadow suddenly moved on its own, forming a terrifying creature. At the same time, the boy named Liu Xiaojun began to rise and said he must not attack and must be patient. But in reality, a wolf monster born from his shadow began to suck the body of one of the thugs who was harassing him. The other 2 thugs tried to flee, screaming that the boy was a monster. But in the end, they both ended up under the claws of the large wolf monster. Seeing movement inside the building, the monster ran into the building and began to rampage. Everyone panicked and ran, trying to save themselves. The monster was so powerful that it managed to trap the building's walls and wreak havoc in the city center. The creature ate every human it desired due to its constant anger. On the other side, Leo continued to cry while bowing down. With a trembling body, the boy asked why the situation had become like this. The more the boy tried to control his anger, the more ferocious his foxtail 3-like creature went wild in the city center. People who saw the presence of the monster became more frightened. They asked the awakeners present to confront the monster, but because some of them were only at new level 16, they were also afraid. At this moment, Lu Feng appeared, whistling to attract the fox monster's attention. Instantly, the creature stopped rampaging and stared at Lu Feng, who was standing calmly on a street lamp pole. Seeing Lu Feng's gaze, the monster felt challenged and immediately tried to attack him. But Lu Feng managed to avoid the creature's attack. People saw a young man who dared to confront the monster, so they speculated that the young man might be a master. But in reality, they saw that the young man was only at new level 9. The fox monster tried to attack Lu Feng, but it couldn't touch his body at all. This agile young man avoided every attack from the monster and deceived it. People were amazed to see how great this newbie was. Lu Feng didn't have time to listen to people's words. He was busy avoiding the fox's attacks while thinking that the creature was annoying. If it weren't a tool for him to practice evasion in thousands of reincarnations, he would have difficulty dealing with such a large fox monster. Lu Feng even struggled when trying to withstand the attacks of the creature's massive arms. Realizing that the creature was getting more ferocious, Lu Feng had to finish it quickly. Finally, Lu Feng dodged the creature's attacks and ran, asking the monster to continue chasing him. It turned out that Lu Feng ran towards Leo. The little boy asked Lu Feng to keep running because the monster could kill him. But Lu Feng approached Leo and lifted his body high in front of the fox monster. After that, the fox monster automatically re-entered Leo's body. Then Lu Feng lowered Leo. The boy could breathe a sigh of relief because the creature recognized him. But suddenly, Lu Feng said that the creature didn't recognize Leo, but the creature was indeed part of Leo himself. Of course, the boy was shocked to hear Lu Feng's words. Then Lu Feng reminded the boy of the first time the fox monster appeared. It was the first time Leo was attacked by a monster in the shadow world. Generally, newbies didn't have a job, but Leo could summon the creature at the first level. It turned out that it was because Leo could separate the creature from his body when he was in danger. The more patiently the boy controlled his emotions, the more ferocious his avatar became. Of course, Leo was stunned to hear the explanation. He didn't expect the demon that indiscriminately killed innocent people to be himself. But Lu Feng told Leo that he was not an ordinary boy. He was an extraordinary awakener who would emerge from among 100,000 people successfully awakened. Leo indeed had a terrifying talent, but if he could control his power, he would be quite high among awakeners. When the time came, Leo could destroy the entire city with his power. Lu Feng gently stroked the boy's head, saying he knew Leo was a good boy who managed to endure everything alone. Lu Feng also knew that the boy was a big fan of Austin, and Leo had collected so many Austin figurines because he also had a heart that wanted to be a superhero. Leo was stunned because the young man in front of him knew everything about him. Lu Feng replied that they were born and died together, so they had to support each other. Lu Feng asked Leo to join his group so that the young man could teach Leo how to control his avatar. Without hesitation, Leo accepted Lu Feng's outstretched hand with hopeful eyes, begging for help. Now, one more member joined Lu Feng's Breaking Dawn Guild.